Welcome into SportBet Extra. I'm your host, Paul Rami, here every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. A little bit of a later start today that's expected. First day back. Today is August 17th, 2026. It's a Monday. It's a great week. We are going to do a lot of talking today about college football, one conference in particular, and we're going to do that for the rest of this week as well. Also going to talk some MLB. Again, I'll show you where you can get all my plays. We're back to posting everything. The summer we took off. Had a great time just betting a lot of things, on our own here. But now that football is starting back up, and then shortly basketball will be right around the corner after that. We're going to start having full shows. So, new graphics. We're here. We're ready to go. Today, again, like I said, it's a Monday, so let's get started. What we're going to get into is the ACC for today. Each day, again, Monday through probably Thursday, we'll do the top four Power Four conferences. We'll break each one down. Today, we'll start with the ACC. Probably do either the Big 10 or the Big 12 tomorrow, and then the following day, vice versa. And then Thursday, we'll hit the SEC there. And then Friday, we'll just kind of get into maybe some NFL, everything going on over the weekend as well. You can see now down below, best bet. We'll be posting it there early in the beginning of the show. So that's my best bet for today. We'll talk about that near the end of the show. But for now, like I said, we're going to get into the ACC. So let's bring up what we've got here for the ACC. This is our projected standings for the ACC this year. Take a look at that. Clemson and the top spot there, number one spot. That's what we've got. We've got Clemson over Miami. So let's talk about it. Let's go through each of these teams. We're going to go alphabetical order, break down really each of them, what they did in the offseason, just kind of some moves, some restructuring they've all done, and see how we got here. Really, it's a different look for a lot of, not for a lot, but for some of these teams, it's a pretty different look. Some had a lot of moves in the offseason. Some didn't do much. So we'll kind of see where we end up and how we got to where we're at. First one we're going to talk about, again, we'll go in alphabetical order here. So we'll go Boston College. Still under head coach Bill O'Brien there. The Eagles, they had a pretty busy offseason. They added multiple QBs, in which Mason McKenzie is going to look to lead the way for this Boston College team. Really, Coach O'Brien, just listening to his podcast, they've been focused on building this offensive line. They've been impressed so far in camp with the addition of Evan Dickens out of Liberty. He produced nice numbers near the end of last season with that team. Really, they hope to bring his 1,300-yard rushing season over to the Boston College Eagles, which they're going to really need badly. They're 130th ranked team last season in rushing yards. So those, if he can bring 1,100, 1,200 yards over rushing, that would be huge for this Boston College team. Really, both sides of the field were a struggle for this team, and it's going to take some time for them to really click. I do expect them to have a better season than that poor 2-10 record they had last year. As you can see, I've got a number 14 there, just above Stanford, North Carolina, Duke. Really looking back at it, this team, they let a lot of games slip away that could have been closer or gone their way had they cleaned up their turnovers. So really looking at their win total on Kalshi, to get 4+ wins is plus 101. Could be a decent bet looking at the schedule. If they can win 2 out of their first 3 games, then they've got a late game this season against maybe Syracuse that they could win out against there. Puts them at 3 wins. Finding that 4th win, it's going to be tough, but I do think they can do a little bit better than Stanford, North Carolina, and Duke there, which kind of brings us back to North Carolina and Duke being now back to basketball schools, no longer really competing much in college football. We'll talk about those two here shortly. But yeah, Boston College, Still got a lot of work to do. Definitely the running game's going to help them. Not going to be the bottom of the barrel of ACC, but they'll be near it. The next team we're going to talk about, Cal. I really like this Cal team. They surprised me last season. They're 7-6 record, and I have a feeling they can do it again. If not, maybe even more. So their high-powered offense ranked 20th nationally last year. They're going to look to continue that. They've got their second-year QB. Still struggle with his name, Sagapolutelli. He's still there. The lefty, he threw for 3,454 yards, 18 touchdowns. It's a nice first year for him to build off of. Really, only 81.7 rush yards per game last year is kind of where Cal struggled. If they can improve their run game, really open things up for the quarterback, that's going to be huge for them. They had a few nice wins against some ranked teams. Number 14 Louisville on the road, beating number 25 SMU to end the season. Looking at this team, 7+ wins sits at plus 101 on Kalshi. Uh, I like them better than Boston College, especially that win total there. Week 4 against Clemson, that's going to be a huge test. If they can somehow pull off that win, then 7 wins is going to look strong. Uh, but you can see there, I've got Clemson up near the top, number 1 there for the ACC this year. Looks like they're going to make the comeback. So that's where we're at right now. Cal, not quite where we'd like them to be. I mean, number 6 is pretty solid. I do think they just kind of slightly edge out Pitt and Virginia Tech there. Syracuse, we're going to see some improvement as well. But I do like Cal. Again, that passing game can really put up some numbers this year. So I like them to win a lot of those games at home. Let's go to Clemson. One of the most intriguing groups in the ACC. They've slightly fallen off the radar the past few years, and expectations are really nowhere compared to where they were when Trevor Lawrence was there leading them. So they're kind of just coasting right now, Clemson. They're not talked about. No one's bringing them up. As long as you've got Dabo Swinney there coaching, you're always going to be in really consideration. Cade Klubnik, he's moved on. So the backup, Christopher Vizina, is stepping in, and he's going to really take the spotlight for this team. They return wide receivers TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco. Those are going to be huge targets. They're going to look to improve on their 309 total offensive yards per game last season, 392, sorry. The addition of SMU transfer Chris Johnson Jr., that's going to be a nice change of pace with the running back Gideon Davidson that they've already got. Filling in that hole for, of course, Adam Randall, who left. He's over in I think he's in Baltimore right now, over there for the Ravens. So big question is, will Clemson get back to being relevant again? That's always going to be the question, right? First game of the season against LSU, that's going to be a huge test to see where this team is, what they're going to need to work on for the season. If they can somehow manage to pull off a win here to open the season, the rest of the schedule isn't really particularly tough besides Miami. Of course, I mentioned Cal. 9+ wins, plus 105. That seems like too good of a number to pass up. 8+ at minus 168. But I like that 9+ at plus 105. I really do think Clemson gets back to the team that they were, and they start to be really that old school, not old school, but that older Clemson team that we had with Trevor Lawrence. So I like Clemson. I do think that they end up winning the ACC this year. We'll talk about Miami, of course. They're number 2. They're up there. You can see Florida State number 3. But I think Clemson. There's just something that it feels like they get it together this year. The expectations are low, right? They're not pressured. Oh, you don't see anyone talking about them making it to the college football playoff and really making a run. It's all about the SEC and Big Ten, really. So I like Clemson here, winning the ACC, sneaking in and getting that. So let's move on to the lowest at the totem pole there, Duke. They're going to look extremely different this year with Darian Mensah gone, no longer leading that offense. He has now moved on to Miami. They're shifting to a heavy ground-oriented offense, and they're going to rely on their all-ACC running back Nate Shepard to carry the load. Offensive coordinator talking about Jonathan Brewer. He's really doing this run first blocking scheme. That's their forefront right now. They're trying to improve off the 1,100-yard season that Shepard had last year, but they're telling you that's what they're going to focus on is running the ball. That's all they're going to try and do this year, Duke. It's going to be tough because they're not going to have the QB behind them to really open things up for the run game. I think Duke's going to struggle a lot here. I think they moved down to last in the ACC. That's a big hit losing Mensa, and Duke just is going to struggle. Uh, I mean, really, their defense is going to have a heavy burden. I'd say anything over 6 wins would be successful for the Blue Devils this year. I don't see it. I'd see maybe a 4 or 5 win team this year for Duke if they're lucky. So let's move on. Florida State. Do not let this record from last year fool you for Florida State. They were sixth in the nation in total offense, right behind national championship contender Miami. Defensively, they were ranked 29, which is pretty solid, only allowing 328 yards per game. The biggest issue this team had last year was turnovers. With a -5 turnover margin, that's just not good enough. That's going to cause you to lose games late. 5-7 records really going to look a lot different this year. They retooled their QB depth chart in getting they got Ashton Daniels from Auburn, who he looked promising as a pocket quarterback so far this fall training that they've been talking about him. Also, adding senior running back Quinn Travion Wisner from Texas. That's going to help out massively in their run game. They're adding some help on the defensive side of the ball, so they're going to be very underrated this year. That third game of the season at Alabama is going to be one to watch because really this team's going to have a pretty tough ACC schedule. So 7+ wins at plus 134. I love that. I think this team's going to end up near. You can see there 3, 4, maybe 5 somewhere. They're going to be in the top of the ACC. They're getting back to it this year. We're going to kind of get back to what it was the last 8, 10 years ago when Clemson, Florida State, these were the teams that were really leading the ACC. I think that's what we're going to kind of get back to this year in the ACC. Georgia Tech, possibly the greatest offseason move for this squad, is getting a little brother of last year's Heisman Trophy winner, Alberto Mendoza. I mean, you lose your bet, really the best QB Georgia Tech has had, and Haynes King there. So sitting behind his brother last year, watching how it is to be successful, it's kind of hard to get that experience. So Georgia Tech is going to get that out of Mendoza. They also added Justice Haynes, who was averaging 7.1 yards per carry last year with 10 total TDs before injuring his right foot and going out for the remainder of the season. So really the potential of this team is definitely there with now an expectation to mirror what they did last year with the 31st ranked rushing offense, putting them near top 50 in the nation. The Yellow Jackets, they also went out. They got some nice offensive line depth, some power 4 guys that they added. It's going to give Mendoza the pocket that he really needs to operate. The defense only forced 11 turnovers all of last year, so they do expect to really win in a shootout type fashion, right? We don't expect the defense to be what carries this Georgia Tech team. It's going to be more of their offense that's going to lead them. That's what we really are going to see. I do have them with maybe 8 wins, 9 wins, something like that. But I think they can edge out Virginia and Cal to end up around that 4th spot there for Virginia Tech. So that's what we've got. There's Georgia Tech there, number 4. Let's go to Louisville. See that right in the middle, number 12 there. Moses Moss moves on at QB. A whole starting rotation turnover here in the offseason. Lincoln Kienholz comes in from Ohio State, where he saw very limited action. He's going to be starting here at quarterback. It feels like there's going to be a dip in production this year. However, as this offensive line, they're going to struggle with guys they brought in, just not big enough to compete. As these transfers, they came from like Delaware, Georgia Southern, and other schools where you don't have these big, really Southern boys that are going to get after it. So they're just going to struggle with size. Really, Louisville is. The better moves are on the defensive side of this team, which should help their 40th ranked defense that they had last year. They got twin brothers, Jared and Jacob Smith from Kentucky. I mean, Jared Smith, that's definitely going to help him. He had solid production there at Kentucky. Getting back to 9-4, yeah, I don't see that happening. It's going to be near middle to the bottom of the pack for this Louisville team. I'd see them right around that 12 spot. There's going to be regression here for them. On to Miami. Obviously, the biggest addition that we just talked about, Darian Mensah from Duke, comes on over to lead Miami, going 10-3 last season. Of course, appeared in the national title game there. It's going to be tough to follow it up. I mean, I'd expect this offense, they're going to maintain this kind of top five offense that they had from last year. In my eyes, a more versatile quarterback that you have than Carson Beck, what you get from Mensa. I think that's going to be a nice improvement for them. They bring over Cooper Barkate to the wide receiver group. That's going to be a nice addition because they're already going to have some chemistry hit there, him and Mensa. Miami, they also added a nice edge rusher out of Missouri who was second team All SEC last year. So it's not going to be easy to get back to that national championship game. But with Mensa at quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Clemson and Miami in the college football playoffs there this year. Uh, really, the best defense in the ACC last year. There's going to be expectations to maintain that type of defense. So we'll see if it can be done. Nice week 5 matchup against Clemson. That's going to be massive. And then, of course, November, you've got Notre Dame. That's going to be must watch. I have them finishing second right behind Clemson there, Miami. It's going to be fun to watch these teams really this year. Down to my 16 spot is North Carolina. A disappointing season, to say the least, for North Carolina under head coach Bill Belichick there. Last year, with his team, should only be looking up from here, but will that happen? Who knows? Gio Lopez, he left to go to rival Wake Forest there, so we'll talk about Wake Forest here at the end. They brought in Billy Edwards Jr. out of Wisconsin. Coach Belichick says this team is stacking days during training here and really building the foundation. You had last year to build the foundation. Foundation should be there now. You should be looking to improve on that. And if you're still building that foundation in year two, that's not a great look. I don't think UNC is really going to be prepared this season, especially the way the ACC is just going to be competing now this year. It's going to be a long way. They're going to be a long way really from being any good. Maybe they finish with 4-5 wins if they're lucky, but I really don't expect much more out of them this year. The running back depth, I mean, that's going to help. They brought in Caleb Jackson out of LSU, but he hasn't really done anything impressive so far during his college years. So it just feels like there's much better options in the ACC, and the Tar Heels are going to be near the bottom this year. NC State. I mean, what to say? There's really not a lot to say about NC State. CJ Bailey returning to quarterback. That's good for them. They had the 58th ranked passing offense last year. There are really no other big splashes made in the offseason for this team. They're most likely going to be middle of the pack type of team again this year. Average offense, average defense. Can they go 8-5 again? Maybe. I really wouldn't put money on it. 6 wins, 7 wins. I'd see them there at the bottom, just above Boston College. That's where they're going to live. NC State, not much to talk about. Again, not many moves. Middle of the pack this year for NC State. Pittsburgh, 8-5 under Pat Narduzzi. We saw more success than really what was projected last year. Excuse me. They ranked right around the top 50 in both offense and defense last year. With the schedule they have this year, they might be able to do it again. I mean, the first 4 weeks, we could see them go 4-0, possibly even 7-0 to start the season if they can provide that same output that they had last year. Then they're going to have, of course, tough game against Miami on the road, Georgia Tech at home, and then with FSU right after. So this team has potential to go 7-0 to start. And then if they win one of those against either, again, who was I saying, Miami, Georgia Tech, FSU, if they win another one of those, I mean, this Pitt team could end there right about that ranked 7 spot, maybe even up above Cal. We'll have to see. But Pitt should have a solid season this year. I wouldn't be surprised. A+ wins at -137 on Kalshi. I I like that one. I don't like the -137 though. I prefer to take something on Clemson, the regular season win total. SMU 9-4 last year. They saw some nice wins, including one win at Clemson, one at home against Miami. With Kevin Jennings back to lead the QB room again, this team should maintain that 58th ranked passing attack from last year. They're going to look to improve. However, a lot of players graduated, transferred. They're going to be, hoping that the weapons they brought in can click. They're going to retain a solid offensive line, which is going to be a plus. And they did also sign 22-player freshman JUCO class that ranked 24th nationally. Uh, but is the experience going to be there? Right? You got a good quarterback, you got a good offensive line, but will the rest click? Will it flow? Will you have the defense that can do much? There's going to be a lot of miscommunication on this team. I think there's too many new faces. They're going to struggle early in the season, especially going on the road against, Florida State, Louisville so early. They had a nice +6 turnover margin last year. I don't think they're going to have that same success this year with the defense. I'd expect regression here from them, and I'd be looking at somewhere about maybe just right above Louisville in that range, about the 11th spot. Uh, Maybe 7 wins if they're lucky. SMU there. On to Stanford. Flying through these in the ACC, right? But look, just talking about them. It's a lot of fun, a lot of movement here in the offseason for the ACC. So when we start talking about, again, the Big Ten, the Big 12, we're going to see the same, especially like the SEC too. It's going to be a lot of fun. The rest of this week is going to be more just college football focused. Let's get everyone ready for college football, which starts in less than 2 weeks now, about a week and a couple days. August 29th is the first game. So we're trying to pack as much in as we can. That way we can also talk some NFL before the season starts, and then continue to cap some baseball games just through the week as well. And today we'll see if we've got time to maybe talk about a couple, maybe talk about the best bet there. Stanford, probably the most movement out of any ACC team this year. In the offseason, they got new head coach, Tavita Pritchard. They also had a QB, Davis Warren, who transferred from Michigan. A lot of movement for this team, adding players from smaller school means they're going to be looking to build the foundation, almost like what North Carolina was doing last year, and we saw how that turned out. So, does that foundation that they build usually end in 8 or 9 win season right away? No. I'd expect some struggles in the season, possibly maybe 4 wins, 5 wins. Second worst offense in the ACC, right behind North Carolina last year. I mean, you can really only go up from there, but I'd put them just right above North Carolina again this year. I'd drop Duke all the way down, you can see, and then Stanford there in that 15th spot. I just think you've got a lot of work before Stanford's going to get to, near the top of the ACC. This next team is very interesting. Syracuse. Can Fran Brown lead this team to more success than last year in his second year? He brought in a new defensive coordinator to hopefully help with that. This team, they're really going to have to hope that Stephen Jelly can perform to the level that he was playing at right before he got injured week 4 last year. They also bring in a new wide receiver group in Cole Weaver from Miami, Ohio, and Elijah Moore, Matthew Allen, who are really some big-bodied power forward guys. Uh, Look, the passing game is going to be the focus for Syracuse. They're surprisingly ranked 39th last year. They just stunk in the running game, 129th nationally in that category. If their defense can improve and the turnovers are cleaned up on the offensive side, we can see a surprise from them this year. Again, they looked good with Angeli or Angeli, however the hell you say it. They looked good with him at QB before he got injured. Didn't really get a good look at Syracuse last year with the rest of the season. So this could be a team that surprises, wins a few games, ends up right in the middle of the pack and that 9 spot for the ACC. On to Virginia. Impressive 11-3 season last year. I mean, key moves had to be made in order to try and obtain that same record or even better. They bring in Bo Pribula out of Missouri. He's going to help maintain that passing attack that they had from last year. Peyton Lewis comes in from Tennessee to help with that backfield rotation. There's also a lot of coaching moves they made, such as promoting offensive line coach, quarterbacks coach. So this team's really not going to look the same as last year. The defense is going to remain focused. That's what they're going to just hit on is their defense. They ranked 32 nationally last year. They had a solid +4 turnover margin, which is great. However, 10 wins is not easy. 9+ wins sits at around +113. So the books are really saying that 8 or 9 win range is where they expect Virginia. So if that's the case, I'd put them right there at the number 5 spot, right below Georgia Tech there. I just think Virginia is going to have just a little bit of regression there this year for the ACC. Virginia Tech, probably the one of the, I guess, second biggest moves in the offseason, right? Behind Georgia Tech getting Mendoza, Virginia Tech, they land James Franklin as their head coach. We've seen what he's done with Penn State over the years. He brought in QB Ethan Grunkemeyer to take over the starting job. That was really his priority now with Kyron Drones gone to the NFL. They bring in slot wide receiver Keshawn Brown from Duke to step in as the primary target out there in the slot. They also had some Power 4 offensive line guys, right, out of Oklahoma, Michigan State, Ohio State. They're bringing a guy from Penn State. So that's going to help them on their offense tremendously. This is not going to look the same as last year. They're going to be expected to improve from that 3-9 record they have. I would see them again more around that 6-7 range, just right behind Cal and Pitt, right above Syracuse. I think Virginia Tech has a pretty decent first season under James Franklin there. So we like them kind of in the middle of the pack of the ACC. Give them a couple years, Virginia Tech will be near the top. We'll be talking about them a lot more than some of these other teams. Lastly, is going to be Wake Forest. A nice season last year, 9-4. They bring in Gio Lopez from North Carolina, who previously played with the Wake Forest offensive coordinator Rob Ezell when they were at South Alabama before Lopez went to North Carolina. So now he's reunited with him. There's some familiarity there that's going to definitely help with the offense that they definitely desperately need after losing 6 of their 8 top pass catchers from last season. Antonio Meeks comes in from Louisville. He's going to provide that experience and that size that you need as a wide receiver. The issue this school really is going to face is, will be the offensive line that rebuild. Only one starter is returning from last year. I'd imagine there's going to be a drop in that 89th ranked offense from last year. I don't see how they get back to that 9-4. Could be close. I think they're just going to slightly edge out SMU, Louisville, NC State there. I project them maybe, like I said, near the top of the bottom of the ACC. So Wake Forest right in that 10 spot. That's where I've got them. So ACC, this is what we're looking at. Clemson, I believe, is going to have a nice year this season for the ACC. Florida State as well is going to jump up from what they did last year. I do believe that. Miami, of course, is going to do well with Darian Mensah and Georgia Tech with Mendoza there. That's what we've got for the ACC. And we'll talk about, again, tomorrow, either the Big 10 or the Big 12. We'll figure out which one we're gonna look at there. Talk about one of those, and then again the SEC on Thursday. So we're right about that 30-minute mark. That's where we're going to be at for each show. Maybe we'll get into some MLB tomorrow. Most likely going to take the full 30 minutes talking college football. We'll see, but you can see down there at the bottom, best bet, Pirates, Tigers, first 5, over 4.5 there. I'm just really fading both Valdez and, God, I hate saying his name, Moldizinski, whatever it is. Valdez just does not look good for Detroit, allowing too many runs. That first 5 over 4.5. The Pirates may be able to get that by themselves just going against Valdez. I mean, I know Valdez pretty well. being an Astros fan and seeing how he's performed, and we know the struggles that he's got. So Pirates, Tigers, first five, over 4.5. That's the play for today. Everything will be posted on the Tails app. Go log in there. Go find me, the Paul Rami, as well as Juice Reel, the Paul Rami. All my plays are going to be posted there, usually right after the show is done. So go check it out. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 1 Eastern, 12 Central. We'll try and be right on time. See you then.